What are you training for? Life. The story that this person in their head.
It's not about being perfect.
So radically different than my story. Welcome to Train for Life, a podcast brought to you by ISI Elite Training. I'm Adam Rice, founder and CEO, and will be hosting this alongside Amanda Hall, our COO. Tune in weekly as we explore topics on personal and professional development to help you level up in all aspects of your life. We call this Training for Life.
What's up, guys, and welcome back. Adam and I are super excited to welcome our next guest to Train for Life podcast. Laila, welcome.
Thank you.
Laila is the franchise partner for our Dilworth, Charlotte, North Carolina location. Her passion for health and wellness started at a young age, and after a short time in corporate America, she made the switch to a career in fitness. She started as a member of ISI Fort Mill and immediately fell in love and felt called to bring this amazing community and workouts to the Charlotte fitness scene. She's very involved in the day-to-day operations at the facility and connected in the local community through business partnerships and community events. When she's not coaching or connecting with members, she enjoys spending time exploring Charlotte with friends, being a dog mom to her pup Ollie, spending time with her family, and cheering on the Panthers. Keep pounding. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Laila.
Thanks for having me.
Super pumped to have you. So, man, I remember a quick backstory. You're obviously one of our first 3 franchise partners.
Mm-hmm.
And you came from Orange Theory. You were a head coach at Orange Theory.
Yep.
And then became a member at Fort Mill. But like before that, kind of give us your story. Like, are you originally from here? And then I know you went into corporate America. I know you got into coaching. Like, give us that story. What built up to kind of exploring ISI?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Atlanta, but I grew up most of my life in Charlotte. So Charlotte's really all I remember. I say I'm from Charlotte, but once I graduated, I graduated with a communications degree. So I went into recruiting for like a year. And I hated going to work. I hated coming home from work. I hated sitting at a desk all day. But at the time I was a member actually at Orange Theory. I was a member for probably 2.5 years. I started in college, just because I had played sports my entire life growing up. So I never went to the gym. Like I was always at practice or we were doing team workouts. I never had to actually make fitness a priority in my life because it was just something I did every day. So I was a member at Orange Theory, hated my life in corporate America, and like through becoming friends with people at Orange Theory, I realized like I can make this a career. So I studied to get my personal training certification, and it took me probably 6 months to do from the time I decided I wanted to do it until the time I got it. And then I saw that Orange Theory was hiring, so I applied to be a coach there. So I went from being a member there to being a coach, and was a coach for 2 years, and then I was promoted to head coach. And it was in Fort Mill, and ISI was actually opening like 2 miles down the road. So once it opened, I kind of started hearing buzz about it and just how different the workouts were, how different the coaches were. And everyone was like, you got to try it out. Like, we know you'll love this with your background in sports. And I liked lifting weights more than I liked running. So I went to ISI, very first session, it was 5 a.m. The coach was also the sales associate at the front desk. It was Ashanti. So like, like I'm walking up in the parking lot and this dude standing at the door, like screaming. I'm like, what the heck am I getting myself into? The best session I had ever taken up to that point at a group fitness facility. Yeah. Just like the energy, the people. Like I walked into a space of 20 new people, knew no one, but instantly just like felt connected. So I became a member then at ISI in Fort Mill. And, I would say it was probably like 4 months I was a member, like sneaking out of Orange Theory after I was done coaching to go work out at ISI. But yeah, I loved it. And, so from there, I knew that the next step that I needed to take as far as like my career in fitness would be to either do my own thing or ownership in a franchise. And just, from day one, like I said, ISI was just different. So that's kind of what prompted me then to take those steps and take the leap of faith and become a franchise partner.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And just for everybody listening, so to preface, before we get into, because I know we're going to dive into female leadership and female ownership and all of that. So Laila is, just to give everybody some context, you opened Dilworth in December of 2020. Yeah. You did pre-sales through COVID.
Yeah.
Last month, I believe, Amanda, am I not correct, or am I correct? She led the system in revenue.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. And
record month.
Is pushing close to 400 members now, and just has a facility and community that's on fire. So for anybody looking for leadership advice, not even just female leadership advice, like zone in on what we're going to talk about here, because there is a lot of context, and I think context is important when we're talking about the things, because it's one thing to hear, it's something else to hear it from someone who's actively in the trenches doing it day in and day out.
Yeah, and I would say, like, going back to that thought of, for my career, I love what you said, how I did look at it and say, for my career, the next step is doing my own thing or getting into a franchise, but ownership. What kind of helped you make the jump? Because I would say, I'm sure there's a lot of young, whether they consider themselves an entrepreneur or not, but there's a lot of people who are young or not young in their life, and they're at that point where they're like, how do I go from, I know I want to do something on my own, I want something that's mine, but I don't know how to go from, I know I'm really good at this, and how do I transition that into business? Like, what would you say, or what would your advice be, or was there anything that you kind of went through emotionally to get you to that point?
I think action, like, you know, everyone, like you said, like, no matter how old you are, you hit a point where you can be comfortable where you're at, or, you know, like, no matter where you're at, there's always a next step.
Yeah.
So I think figuring out what you have to do to get to that next step, and then just taking action on it. You can sit there and continue to do the same thing day in and day out, year after year, but until you actually change something, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could still be in my same position, happy. I mean, it's not that I wasn't happy, but, you know, to grow professionally, to challenge myself more, like, it was just taking that next step. Yeah.
I think it's really powerful to say, I made the decision, and now I get to be my own boss, if you will, or you get to be in your shoes. I get to see you, you know, every day when I'm in Dilworth, and I know the type of leader you are, which we're going to dive into. You never kind of give that boss persona, but I do think it's cool to say, like, I'm in charge of my destiny. I've taken something I'm really good at for 2 years and then made it into something that now's my own, that I'm passionate and believe in. And the community you've inspired really to grow through your team is phenomenal. I mean, I see it every day. I actually also saw it a year ago and see what it is today, and I get to be a part of it, which is amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about, I want you to share with us a little bit about your kind of mindset around leadership. Like, what do you think, and I think this can transpire whether you're leading a team or you're just individually a leader in your own right, role, home life, whatever that is. But what's your kind of view on leadership before we talk about being a woman in leadership, but just leadership in general?
I think leading from the front. I mean, we hear that all the time, but when your people see that you're doing the things that you expect them to do, I think they just do it with so much more respect for you and respect for your business. But then they do it also the way that you would do it if you were in their role. So, like, I think I have a problem delegating 100%. Like, I want to do it all. I know I can do it all, but there's not enough time to do it all. So, you know, trusting people to do the things that you want them to do and you expect them to do in their roles, and leading them to do it the way that you would do it. I think when they see you do it first, they're more apt to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And then also it makes them feel like you could jump in and do it at any time too, and not like you're micromanaging them or you're talking down on them. And I think, I mean, from my background at Orange Theory, like, I was in a position as a head coach working with our manager, our facility manager, where our owners trusted us. Like, they were in the business, not to the extent that I am, but I mean, they did truly trust us. And I liked being led that way. I think it helped me become the leader I am today. But I think also, like, feeling trusted as whether you're a part-time sales leader or a facility manager or a head coach, like it empowers you to own your role and like and own a piece of the daily operations of the business. So I think it empowers people when they know that you trust them, but then also they respect you a lot more when they see that you do the same things that they do.
That you're willing to jump in
Absolutely.
where they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How would you say important it is to hire the right people?
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Yeah.
Hiring the right people and also getting the wrong people out and not letting it linger. I know one thing, Adam, like you talk about consistently is that the culture and how the wrong people in your business can bring the culture completely down, whether it's one person or whether it's 3 people. It's hard. Like someone can be an amazing person, but maybe they're just not the right person for that role. Or maybe they're not the right person for the vision that you have for your facility. So it's hard to make those decisions, but yeah, 100%. Like the right people in the right place will make things run smoothly and be so much less of a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look at, you've essentially almost tripled the size of your business and community in about 18 months, right? So when you look at that, and what I see from that perspective is you talk about action, but I want to talk a little bit about execution.
Yeah.
Because how old are you?
28.
Okay. So you've got a quote unquote millennial, right? And one thing that's very interesting that I see and talking with other people within the franchising world is millennials are phenomenal at executing. Like they don't try and veer off, but they have enough interdependence to say, hey, if this isn't created, I'm gonna create it, but I'm gonna stay within the guardrails of essentially what we're trying to do and accomplish here.
Yep.
And obviously you're phenomenal at executing. So how important is it for someone to actually execute the playbook and not worry about recreating? And how have you seen that be beneficial within franchising, and why has franchising been, kind of the bedrock of foundation to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it can make or break your business on whether you execute or try to recreate the playbook. You say a lot of times, like, look at the data, like the data doesn't lie. Yeah. I mean, the KPIs that we have in place, that we've had in place since day one, I mean, we go by those numbers, and we know if we don't hit those numbers, whether it be leads in the door, memberships that we sell monthly, member retention, if we aren't hitting those numbers, we're not going to be where we need to be successful. Yep. So I think month over month, looking at the data, looking at the numbers, and executing to do what you need to do to get the numbers you need to be successful will make or break your business. It'll make or break your community. Because if things aren't flowing in the door, I mean, your community is not gonna be exciting. It's not gonna be changing. People aren't gonna be excited to get in there. So yeah, I mean, I think recreating something, especially in the franchising world, like, why would you do that?
Right.
I feel like you guys do like the hard work in that sense for us. Like, you help us so much with the KPIs from the top. All we have to do is go out in the community and execute. And that helps us to be successful with where we're at. Like last month with the lead generation challenge. Yep. We had obviously across the brand a lead generation challenge to see who could get the most leads last month. And I mean, endlessly we were working to get referrals through the door, our name out in different like wellness places in the community, just to get like-minded people through the doors to experience ISI. And it was just, at that point, it was just execution. And then the leads kept flowing in. So
talk about that word momentum. So you guys are seeing it like crazy. And I think this can relate and resonate with anybody who maybe is feeling stuck in their life, right? It doesn't just have to be business. Yep. But you guys took massive action to the things you already knew that you needed to do. Yep. And it created this massive momentum that you're feeling. You got, I think, over 100 and some odd new people in the door right now on a promotion. Yeah.
I think it starts with the people you already have in the door to create that momentum. Like, as staff, we can be excited. We can try to create that momentum. But when you have 350 other people that are behind you with that excitement, that's where the momentum comes from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it starts with our community, friends going and telling their friends about ISI. I mean, even wearing their shirts that say ISI Elite Training, reposting on their social media. I think momentum comes from within the walls that you already have, and then it just keeps bringing people through the doors and driving excitement. And I mean, that's where the 100+ people came last month.
Wow.
Because they were excited about it. You know, they've heard about it, they've seen it.
I love that you, I think to be in this business in general, and any business you're in, every business is about people. You know, when you get the people right, you get the momentum. Not that there's not execution and other factors, but talk about your community a little bit as a woman who's very involved, but also probably less involved today than you were originally, right? A little bit as you've grown. But I do see, like, you have probably 60% or so women-based members.
Yeah.
How do you feel that you as a woman connect with them, and do you feel like you get that opportunity to inspire them?
Yeah.
You know, what does that mean to you as a woman owning this business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think from being a female who is the franchise owner of the facility, people see that. And I mean, I've probably had 10 of our members that are females come up to me and be like, wow, like, you can actually do this. It's like, yes,
awesome.
I can. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, yes, I'm young, but also I think we connect on that level of being young, but also, like, it's been females that have come. So I think inspiring them from that standpoint of, like, maybe it's not fitness that they have a passion for, but I mean, the conversations that we've had about changing into a career path that they love, even just because they see me coming in, and we have conversations about how it's not a job. Like, I love being around our members. I love having conversations with them about that. So inspiring them from that front. And then also,
I was going to say, do you ever feel like, because you're a woman or your age, which you talked about being young, that are people shocked that you own it, or do you ever feel like you're underestimated? Or
yes,
you do?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back, you said earlier, like, I don't have this persona about me, like, I'm in charge, I'm the boss. So I think that plays into it too. Like, I feel like I blend in with my staff. Like, I want people to view me as no different than they do anyone else that's there. Like, I'm there to serve our members, and that's it. Like, I don't feel like they need to look at me as any different than them. So I think people have that, like, oh wow moment from that, like, you're the owner. But then also, I mean, I am young. Like, I'm half the age of some of our members. But they say, oh wow, but then it's always like, this is incredible. Like, it's amazing that you're doing this. So I think, I think they see that, our female members see that, and from a professional standpoint, like, it inspires them. Yeah.
I mean, I think that you are one of the strongest leaders I've seen that leads with a level of humility, but in a very good way. You know, and I know you talked about, like, working alongside your team. But I also think you put them in positions where they're seen as the trusted advisor in their role, whether they're the coach or your facility manager or your sales leaders. Like, everyone knows that even if you're there amongst them, like, that they are the expert in that role. You do a really good job. And I love what you said about coming alongside of them. I don't want anybody to see me as, oh, that's the owner. What do you feel like you've ever had some challenges? And maybe it's not even here at ISI, but just as a woman in leadership, have you felt any, areas that you're challenged, or that maybe you would say, like, man, I don't know, do I just feel like this is different because I'm a woman?
Yeah. I don't think, like, day to day, there's one specific instance that, like, always stands out to me and, like, kind of bothers me continuously. But during the build out and construction phase, my dad was alongside me, I mean, through most of it. He's amazing. But he would be there, and just as a male presence, like, everyone would always go to him. But he was, like, very quick to be like, don't talk to me, like, she's the one making the decision.
She's in charge.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, even as we close stuff out with construction, like, it's still like that. That's one thing that sticks out, just as being female, that I felt like less than. Yeah. Or not, like, I don't know, treated as the one that is in charge.
I would say, I would bet a lot of women, whether you're in a room, whether it's professionally or personally, and you're with men, I mean, I think that is a commonality, right?
Yeah.
If a guy's there and it's something that's of decision worth, I see that a lot, like where they'll look at the guy first versus the woman.
Yeah.
That is interesting. But I could see, and in that industry, in construction, I could see how it would even be more so that they're thinking maybe a trait of a guy would be to be more concerned with construction than a woman.
Absolutely.
But either way, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So speaking on like being a female leader and owner, we spoke in one of our first episodes around potentially females that I'm going in the direction of standard, right? So from what I see, I'm not in your day to day, but you hold incredibly high standards for your team. However, I've also seen from other female entrepreneurs, or not even entrepreneurs, even managers will say like, if I'm holding them accountable, or if I have a tough conversation, I come off as, a bitch. So how do you balance that? It's got to be even harder with being an owner, because naturally people's mindset is, oh, you're making $9 million, right? People they don't see everything else.
Yep.
So how do you balance that with what I feel sometimes just the struggles of being an owner, but then you put that on top of being a female owner and having those hard conversations?
Yeah. I think if you set the precedence, like say you're going into a hard conversation, I've found that like if I'm having one of those hard conversations, you set the precedence like, this is going to be a hard conversation. This is hard for me. But if you go into it with the mindset of like, I'm going to grow from this, which I feel like over the past 1.5 to 2 years, like a lot of those hard conversations that I've had for the first time, if I had them now, the ones that I had a year ago, it's not even a hard conversation anymore. So I think just going into it, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, you might not feel as respected as you want to feel in the conversation, but just like holding your own voice and realizing that, no matter who it is you're having the conversation with, whether it's male or female, no matter how old they are, because I feel like I also have that as I'm young.
Yeah.
That's another factor that's added in there. And just like really, respecting myself in a sense, like I'm having this conversation for a reason. I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to help this person grow from it. That is just mindset going into it.
One thing I see in you is you're very proactive, and hard conversations they're more abundant when you're reactive, right?
Yeah.
So how important is it for you setting standards with your team and expectations up front to help alleviate some of those hard conversations, whether it's something as simple as this is how we do the sales process, or this is my expectation when you greet members?
Obviously they know their expectations up front. But it's a lot in day-to-day operations, like things get lost sometimes. But I think what's helped is addressing situations, no matter how small or big the problem is, like right then.
Yes.
And making it more conversational so that it doesn't get to a point where it's like third strike, fourth strike, fifth strike of it happening repeatedly. Because then it's not a hard conversation. It could be taking the trash out after a shift. Like, hey, I noticed you didn't take the trash out. Make sure you do it next time.
Right.
Even feedback with a coach, with our facility manager, like having the conversation then and not letting it linger, because then it doesn't add up and just become magnified.
Yeah.
I love that. I always say too, like no one starts a job and expects to fail.
Right.
So if you're not setting the expectation and then telling them and helping guide them, then it is a hard conversation. Then on the back end, you view it as you didn't have my back while I was in the role. Like you weren't letting me know that this wasn't meeting a standard.
Right. And no one's perfect. Like no one's going to do everything right anyways. So, the conversations have to be had. I feel like it's healthy to have those conversations.
I hear a lot more now that people are afraid someone's going to quit.
Yeah.
And I hear that that's a fear. Like if I tell them they're not meeting my expectation or they're not doing this correctly, they're just going to quit. I'm always kind of shocked by that, because I always feel like, well, then they missed it at the very beginning and you didn't come alongside them as the right leader. But do you have a lot of fear of that, like with your team, or do you feel like your communication is just open and that's not something that you're fearful of?
I wouldn't say I'm fearful of it. Hiring people right now is very hard, so I always hope that no one quits. But I think that having that open communication and also asking them for feedback, like I feel like at least once a month, myself and our facility manager are asking like, how can we better communicate with you? Whether we feel like something isn't translating to them, or just always wanting feedback on how I can be better in my role too, and like better serve my team, I think is important. And it makes them feel like it goes both ways. Like they can give me feedback, but also they know that I will call them out and I'm going to give them feedback too.
I love that. What would you say to somebody who is listening to this because you were previously with Orange Theory and then came and opened ISI, and maybe they're listening to this and they're like, why would I not necessarily own an ISI, but just want to come into an ISI?
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Like, what would you say so different about it? Not necessarily from Orange Theory, but just in general. What makes it unique to you from your perspective?
The community is the first thing that comes to mind. I've dabbled in a lot of different group fitness facilities in Charlotte when I've gone out of town, and it's so different. The feeling you get when you walk into an ISI, it's welcoming. It's the workout. It challenges you in a different way that's not repetitive. I think the fact that coaches have a little bit more say-so in the type of workouts, I think kind of makes it a little bit more challenging. But also they take more ownership in the workouts too. They're delivering something that they truly believe in. So I think from the community aspect and the workout aspect, it's challenging in a different way, but also it's welcoming in a very genuine way. Yeah.
That's awesome. What would you say to somebody? So let's speak to the younger generation here that maybe it's not opening a business, right? Maybe it's taking that leap to the next level in their life. Like the reality is there's a lot of people out there that are maybe in their mid-20s right now that, they're wanting to have a family, they're wanting to take that next level in their life, but they're making good money maybe right now, or we're in a landscape of remote work and maybe their next step is, man, I got to go to the office 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person to level up their life? And then I want to know kind of what are your goals? Like, what is your vision for where you want to head, within ISI or whatever it is?
Man, I think if someone's thinking about the next step, I think like they're itching for it. They want it. So they might be comfortable with where they're at, and that's fine. But if they're thinking about it, like they should probably just take that jump and do it. Yeah. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I think surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to support you. And I think being young too, something that kind of plays into it is realizing that the group of friends you have when you take the leap into something that helps you grow, whether it is entrepreneurship or starting a family, no matter what it is, there are probably going to be people that are left behind that aren't going to understand the way that your life is going to change. And that's fine. Like there will be more people though waiting for you at that next level. Wow. And they're going to help you when you get to that next level, grow and really succeed in that next level. So I think just taking the jump and doing it is only going to help in the long run make your life 10 times better. So
where do you want to go? You're 28, you said. You're super young.
Yeah.
You're super successful right now. Like, where do you want to go?
Professionally?
Yeah, professionally. And so, even personally.
I think, my vision when I sit back and I think like 5 years from now, where do I want to be? 10 years from now, where do I want to be? I'm so involved with the facility now and I love it. I wouldn't change anything about my day-to-day life right now, but I want to get to a place in the next year where like I'm in it when I want to be in it. Yeah. And I don't feel like a full-time employee on my coaching staff or on my sales staff. Cause then at that point I feel like I'll be able to really take a step back and focus on location 2, 3, 4, and ideally like have more of like a region of facilities, right? That are all like, I want to replicate what we have at Dilworth.
Go big, Laila, go big.
Okay, 10.
Yeah, there we go. There we
go. So that's where I see like my vision within ISI, 100%.
Cool. What about personally?
Well, right now it's just me and my dog, but no, I want a family. And that's, I think that's another thing. Like I couldn't do what I do now and also be a mom. Yeah. So I want to find that balance. But yeah, I want some kids. I want a husband, I guess, along the way would help too.
Yeah. So when you say I couldn't do what I do now without kids, for that, say that we've got a member that's a mom that has a 3-year-old.
Yep.
Obviously, she's not going to be able to be as involved with you as you are, right?
Yep.
But what would your advice be for someone like this? Like, man, like my kid's now going into daycare. I'm going to have time. I want to get back into this. This is what I want to do. Can they do it? And if so, what's your advice for setting up their team to do that?
Absolutely, they can do it. I would say set themselves up by finding themselves an amazing facility manager and an amazing head coach that can be the leaders on the sales side and the coaches side, so that they don't have to be. They can lead the two of them, and they can run the facility the way that they would run it. So find themselves a Brandon and a Brittany. That's my head coach and facility manager. But then also just like trust them. Be involved, but also trust them and empower them to make the daily decisions. And they could easily be there to pick their kids up every day. Go to the facility and work out, and, have ownership and empower their teams to do it all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you have taking the jump so young. And I don't know if I follow Gary Vee a lot, but I've really been into what his message has been lately, which the older I've gotten, which I'm the oldest one at the table, the more and more I see that, like, he's like, make the decisions young, take the jumps young. Like you do have so much time.
Yeah.
When I look at, everything over the course of my last 20 years, I think I look back sometimes and think, gosh, I wish I would have made the move sooner, or had more confidence in myself sooner to do it, or thought about, what ifs, like what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's so much pressure sometimes I think people get so bottlenecked into, I have to look a certain way at this age and have it all figured out. I don't think that that's the reality. And I think a lot of people settle short on maybe a career path, an expectation because it was set. So that's where they need to go. And then they get stuck.
Yeah.
So I love when you said, like, look, if you've been thinking about it or you're itching, whether it's owning or anything that you're thinking about, you probably just need to take that step. And I would even say, man, if you're young, I mean, frankly, if you're under 40, like, you're still young. I mean, I'm over 40, but I'm still young.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, you should take that jump. I think what you said and how you inspire people as a leader, not just as a woman entrepreneur, but just overall, I think is really kind of this next wave of people realizing there's so much opportunity and there's so much opportunity at a young age and to do it. Like, you can do it. It's not something that's reserved for someone who has it all figured out.
No.
Because nobody really ever does.
No.
So I think that was really powerful what you said. If you have that itch, jump into it, but also just your perspective on doing it, do it now, don't wait. And I think everything's figure outable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too is the notion of, because I can just feel like someone listening to this and them thinking like, well, yeah, I don't have the money to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that when there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
Right. There's a ton of people out there who want to invest. There's a ton of people out there who probably believe in you, whether that's family or someone outside of that. Right. And so obviously you had that opportunity and now you're capitalizing. Same thing for me, right? Is I had to find an investor for my very first studio. I was living in a trailer. Yeah. Right. So I think when you want it bad enough, you'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
I know this is going to inspire somebody. Where can they, if they have any questions, where can they find you on Instagram? And then what is the handle for your guys' location? Yeah.
So my personal is my first and last name, Laila Tafazzoli. And then to see our facility, you can check out ISI Dilworth.
Awesome. All right. We're going to end it with some fun, so everybody gets to learn a little bit about you. Okay. So this is just going to be fire questions, like a this or that. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Would you say you're a mom or a daddy's girl?
It depends on what I want.
Good answer. Good answer. Wow. Okay. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Favorite food?
Tacos.
Okay. What would be your favorite movement at ISI to do?
Ooh, sled push.
Sled push. Good. Love it.
All right. Well, thanks, Laila.
Thank you
so much for being on. And guys, as always, the purpose of this podcast is to bring value to you guys in all aspects of what it means to actually train for life, both personally and professionally. And as you know, like it, share it, comment if this resonated with you, and we'll see you on the turf.